Most people think time travel is used to change history. They're wrong. We use it to investigate it. While everyone else chases the next big release, I'm part of a team that's sent backwards. Back to games people forgot, franchises that collapsed, the studios that disappeared. We play the games, we survive them, we report the truth. Some missions uncover hidden masterpieces, while others leave scars. My name is Harry, and I'm the time-traveling gamer.
Your next mission has been approved. Travel to the year 2014. Intelligence has identified Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor, as a historically significant title. Following its release, it received widespread critical acclaim and introduced the groundbreaking Nemesis System, a mechanic that continues to be discussed more than a decade later. Your mission is to determine whether this game is still worth playing today, or if history remembers only its greatest innovation. Good luck, Agent!
So after going back to 2014 to finally get my hands on Shadow of Mordor, I was excited and I really didn't know what to expect. A lot of things about this game surprised me, but let's talk about everything I enjoyed and didn't enjoy and the game itself as I get ready to file my report. Shadow of Mordor doesn't really do anything better than every other game in its genre that has come out since 2014. It's one of those games that you're not really going to be thinking about a year after you finish it. It never really had a moment that I was like, whoa, that's awesome. But I think that's okay, because sometimes I think we expect every game to be a masterpiece or to be one of our favorite games of all time. But I do think there's something special about video games that are just video games. There's a fine line between a bad game and a great game. And that line, I think, is sometimes fun to walk. I think it's cool to play a game that you don't look back on as like, oh, it's one of my favorite, but you can definitely look back and be like, hey, that was a fun video game. And that's exactly what Shadow of Mordor is. Now, unsurprisingly, its gameplay is probably the strongest thing about this game. It's built around combat, right? You're fighting these orcs and all these bad guys, and your combat is built around keeping your attack chain alive. So the longer you are attacking and the more hits you get without subsequently getting hit, or a couple of seconds without hitting, you increase your power and you're able to do sort of finishing moves or special blocks or special abilities. And that's pretty fun. It does teeter on the hack and slash vibe, which is not for everyone, myself included, when it comes to video games. But the combat, it was fun and exciting, and I did more than once or twice find myself wanting to see how high of a chain of attacks I could get before I got hit. The movement was smooth as well. Now, there is a case to be made about this game being compared to the original Assassin's Creed trilogy from a movement standpoint, and I believe we will file that in our report, but I do want to complete my assessment of the series before I completely make a claim like that. I'll just know that the movement in this game is very reminiscent of those earlier Assassin's Creeds, and it's very smooth and fluid, and I got stuck maybe a couple times, but overall, I mean, you're scaling walls, you're running from these giant building tops, well, sort of structure tops to each other. You can easily escape combat by simply scaling a wall, and it was fun. One thing I will say that does sort of add a little bit of a niche to me is there's no fall damage at all in this game. There's story reasons for it, but I also feel like in a game like this, adding fall damage would have been a little more fun or enjoyable, something else to have to worry about than just numbingly, needlessly just jumping from the highest part of any building, although that was fun from time to time. Now let's talk about the Nemesis system. So if you're someone who's played this game, not played this game, maybe you haven't even heard of this game, I'm almost certain if you are involved in the video game medium as a whole, you've heard of the Nemesis system. And it was this game that really introduced it. Back in 2014, this really was a groundbreaking idea, and it was something that I remember now it's still being something that was incredibly popular and looked upon as like a really cool feature. The idea of the Nemesis system is really simple, and it's executed very well in this game. So instead of every orc captain being another random enemy or just being like a target you have to kill, The game gives them names, personalities, strengths, weaknesses, fears, and every memory you create with them, as long as they're alive, they remember. And so you're going through this progression of fighting these enemies, but eventually you'll die, or eventually you'll have to run away from them and disengage in the fight. And when that happens, the game and those enemies remember that. They remember your encounters. They remember who you were. They remember that they might have killed you. Well, they did kill you. Again, story plot reasons, you're able to die and come back, but they remember it. And so if they kill you, maybe they did a good enough job that they get a promotion. So then they move up in the ranks. So let's say you're fighting maybe, for simple, let's say you're fighting a regular employee. And then he gets, he eliminates you. Well, now the boss is like, hey, good job eliminating that guy. Now you're a manager. And so these enemies, they get to level up and they become stronger and tougher. And so it really comes down to how well you can handle them. And there are things that you have to do to sort of, make it easier for yourself. You can scout them out. You can take out their bodyguards. You can go really stealthy. You can go really aggressive. You can go from afar with your bow and arrow. There's a lot of different play styles in this game that I really wasn't expecting. But the Nemesis system, that system of them remembering you and then moving up and things like that, was really revolutionary at the time of this game. And it's still a system that it is cool and I enjoyed it. But there was one big problem. I only died about 4 times while playing this game. So while the system is really cool and the idea of it is awesome, I didn't really get to experience those long running rivalries, those big buildups where everybody remembers how they fought this one guy early in the game, then he became too powerful to fight, so you have to fight him later. I never really had that moment. And because of that, I really wish that there had been a harder difficulty to really let the system shine, but it just wasn't there in this game. So although it was a cool concept, and like I say, it is executed well, the gameplay itself was just a little too simple for me to not be able to experience that story. So let's talk about the story in this game, because like much of everything else in this game, it's a really simple story, but enjoyable nonetheless. The story follows Talion, who is a ranger who is murdered alongside his wife and his son before the game really even starts. It's like the second scene in the game. But there's a twist. He's brought back from death. His body becomes bound to the spirit of this unknown elf. However, we find out later that it's Celebrimbor. I think I said that wrong. But anyway, he's the guy who forges the rings in the Lord of the Rings, right? He's the guy who made the big bad rings, the big good rings, all those rings. He's the one who did that. I don't know if I've said this yet. It's a Lord of the Rings game. Some people don't know that. But throughout the game, you two share the same body, and that's why you're able to not take fall damage. That's why you're able to come back from death, and that's why you're able to do a couple of other things throughout the game. But the main point of the game is you're trying to get revenge on the people who murdered, I guess, you, your wife, and your son, and you're trying to also find out who this mysterious elf is with you, who you do find out later on in the game. I like the dynamic. I think it was pretty cool. Instead of one main character, it felt like you were playing 2 characters at once. And the best dialogue in the entire game come between these two. It's not always built to be a comedic relationship, but there are funny moments and moments where I was very much laughing. But I do like the contrast between the elf, who's kind of stoic and clearly has lived much longer, more philosophical life, and then you, who's kind of like just a brute who wants to get revenge for the murder of his family. But then the dynamic does sort of shift towards the end of the game, where the elf becomes more of like obtaining the answers to his goal, and then you become more like, I want to help people. So it is cool to see that the story happens, but at the core, it's a revenge story. And who's not a fan of a revenge story in a video game? I will say though, I do wish that we did play a couple more missions as Celebrimbor. I do think that would have been fun. They did eventually add a DLC where you do play as him, but I think for the core game itself, it would have been cool to play more of maybe before it happened, or maybe building up to how he died, and then maybe how he got stuck in the purgatory place thing or how he got cursed or things like that. It would have been cool to see. But overall, I mean, he was a very fun character to have alongside. But my favorite character throughout the entire game is a character you meet very early, and then just as quick he seems to be gone, and that is my boy, my homie, my favorite man, Mr. Ratbag. Okay, Ratbag is a captured orc, I believe. I don't know what's going on with him. Either that or he's into some sort of freaky deaky stuff. But when you first meet him, he's tied up and you cut him loose. Now, he's a character who essentially is your inside man for the first act of this game, right? He wants to become a war chief. He wants power within the ranks of the orcs. And so his whole plan is like, you help him defeat the other ones so then he can take their spot. And that was super fun. This guy was very funny, was very enjoyable to play with because he kind of has this charming, cowardly vibe about him, all while being a bad guy. And so that is sort of interesting. Unfortunately, he does just die at the end of Act 1, and it's not even by your hands. I think it would have been really cool, and it could have been a much better character if he did become either the last war chief you had to fight in the first act, or if maybe he just disappeared and came back in the second half, or if he just sort of had a change of heart, so to speak, and helped you out along the rest of the way. It was really interesting, and I think that would have added much more interesting types of dialogue and things throughout the game, where maybe the last fight of the game or the last fight of the first act is a little bit bittersweet, or maybe he does help you and then you kind of have to justify why an orc is helping you to all the other people who despise him and things like that. I think there was a lot of missed opportunity with that character because he's just killed off in a cutscene by an NPC. As mentioned, this game takes place in the world of Lord of the Rings. Middle Earth is where the world of Lord of the Rings. Orcs, Uruks, Celebrimbor, these are all characters associated in within the world of Lord of the Rings. And I do think something that this game does really well, and I'm really happy to see, is that they take J.R.R. Tolkien's world of the Lord of the Rings and they really apply it to the orcs and the bad guys, because his world has always had dumb orcs and then less dumb orcs teetering on smart. And I think this game captures that really, really well. I think so many games, maybe the enemies are really sort of just one dimensional, and once you kill one zombie, then you kill them all. But I do like that they've stayed true to the source material, where there are actually intelligent bad guys in this, and although they do look like all the other orcs, they are smart, and some people play that into their feature. Characters like Ratbag, characters like all the war chiefs throughout your time playing the game. There are so many characters in this game that are like, hey, you're doing some cheeky business, but like I say, that's the source material, and I think that's a really good thing for the game. I wouldn't call a game just fun if it didn't have bad things, and this game does have a couple of things that I just can't overlook. The biggest issue to me was that the game was really repetitive at parts. Once you reach the second region, sort of second act of the game, you really just restart everything you've already done. So as mentioned, the Nemesis system, you work your way up, you take out sort of the food chain of bad guys, then you take out the war chiefs. In the second act, that Nemesis system just resets and you do it again in a different area. That didn't really feel like I was evolving or doing anything different. I would have rather liked either a much bigger Nemesis System board, or I would have maybe liked something else entirely, but having to redo it felt really repetitive. Another thing that sort of happened because of my own mistake is that I soft locked myself at the end of the game, where I couldn't progress the gameplay until I did specific things. Unfortunately, those specific things were the same thing about 5 times. And so for about an hour and a half of gameplay, I was just doing the same type of mission over and over and over. And it really bogged me down and it really dragged everything down. And it was getting much harder to push through and finish it because it was just so repetitive, doing the same mission over and over. But like I said, that could maybe be blamed on me for soft locking myself. The ending also was pretty disappointing, pretty anticlimactic. It's been out for a decade, so I'm not really gonna try to watch out for spoilers, but essentially you get your revenge on the person who killed you. The only problem is you spend this entire game leveling up your abilities, learning new skills, mastering the combat system, figuring out weaknesses, how you can approach situations, stealthy, aggressive, from afar. Do you use the environment? Do you blow up barrels? How are you going to handle this? And all of this to get your revenge with a quick time event. The final boss battle is a quick time event, and I just don't think 2014 was the right era to be doing quick time events because the cutscenes, they don't look that great. They've definitely shown their age, especially in modern times. Um, a good tell is that the monitors play the gameplay better than the cutscenes do now in some of these older games. So it just was really anticlimactic and disappointing to me. I'm not a fan of QuickTime events in any scenario, but especially as a climax for your game. Oh boy, was that like my first note I wrote when getting this report together.
So here's my final report for Shadows of Mordor. Is it still worth playing today? I'd say yes, but only because it's fun. If the game wasn't set in one of the most recognizable fantasy worlds ever created, I honestly think I would have forgotten about it not long after finishing it, if I ever finished it at all. If you're simply looking for a solid open world action game where you can have some fun, then Shadow of Mordor still has enough going on for my recommendation. It's a simple, fun adventure through Middle Earth. I enjoyed my time while it lasted.